Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Baggers Chats. It is week 2 for Trade Talk. Today, I'm joined with Ethan Duffy. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. It's been a very, very interesting week with the Blue Baggers. We're heavily involved.
Very, very busy week. So, obviously, we'll touch on the trades a little bit later, but obviously, we'll try and touch on first things first. Of course, last week we actually forgot to mention them. So we had to make sure that all of our supporters know that Sam and Jack haven't left us. We are still all together, but Sam and Jack are unavailable, obviously, going through the trade week, just because with their new podcast Around the Wicket, make sure to get around them. But obviously for probably the next couple of weeks, just so they can get their podcast up and running, they will be unavailable. So you are stuck with Duff and I for the next couple of weeks for Trade Talk. But make sure you get around the wicket. Make sure you get around the wicket. But,
yeah, very, very nice.
It is a very good podcast, I must say. So obviously they're joined with also Aiden and Jai, who are a couple of our good mates as well. So it's a very good podcast, and make sure to get around it. Okay, so let's get stuck into it. So obviously we'll start off with the heartfelt stuff. So obviously Sam Docherty is going through quite a tough battle at the moment with cancer. So far from what I'm hearing, he's going okay. The treatment's going well. He's almost past the treatment. It's probably just a few more weeks until he can really get through it. But obviously all the players got around Doc by shaving their head, which I think that was really good to see. What was your thoughts on that, Duff?
Yeah, it's just a good thing to see. It's just shows the footy world, is a good place. There's always more important things than on-field performance for mine. Obviously, cancer and family and all that type of stuff is more important than winning games of footy. So it's just good to see the boys get around it, and shows that the culture of the footy club's still good, despite, media being all over us at the end of the year, So, yeah, it's great to see. And hopefully, Doc's fully recovered in, a week's time.
Yeah, no, because I think that's probably one of the things that I've actually noticed. A lot of people are getting around the players just and kind of saying like, oh, well, this is what you want to see. Like, you want to see if one of your players goes down, everyone goes down with you. It's kind of that type of mindset, which is actually good to see. So obviously Sam Docherty, absolute legend, probably legend of the club, very good player, all Australian in his own right. So hopefully we wish to see you back out there, Sam Docherty. And also, of course, our co-host Sam Carlton has also put his hand up to probably next month to shave his head. Duff, Jack, and I are too scared to shave their head off because we're a bit. But obviously, we've gotten around the cause. We've donated some money to Peter Mac Foundation. But also make sure to get around Sam and his process with shaving his head. So we'll obviously attach the link below. Make sure you donate and make sure you get around Sam and everyone else involved. All the best, Savvy. All right. So let's get started with the delistings. So obviously this is quite not a very uplifting start, but we need to get it out of the way. So obviously Sam Ramsey is one of the two that have been delisted. Duff, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's an interesting one for me. I think it's a bit stiff for mine. He just lacked opportunity at AFL level. Even at VFL level, due to the last 2 years not really being seasons. Well, last year they didn't really have a VFL. They just had, scratch matches of, 12v12, which is just a load of shit. Yeah. Not really good preparation for AFL level. And then this year, obviously, got cut short because of all the recent lockdowns and that. So I was surprised, honestly. I think a few players who are on the chopping block and are still at the club are very, very lucky. They just got to have a good year to hopefully earn themselves a contract next year and hopefully not get delisted.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we won't name all the players that we arguably shouldn't really be deserved of playing next year. So who knows? I mean, there might actually be some more delistings to come, but obviously Sam Ramsey, very, very stiff. I mean, he hasn't even played an AFL game, and I thought he's actually been pretty good in the VFL games that he's actually been able to play this year. And obviously the scratch matches as well. It's not really AFL. So very stiff on Sam Ramsey, and hopefully he can get another opportunity from another club, or even us with the pre-rookie draft. But we'll have to see. But obviously our other delisting is a very interesting one. Michael Gibbons, what's your thoughts on that, Daff?
Yeah, it's a 50-50 one, because there's a few positives and a few negatives to mine. I think one of the negatives is Gibbo provides a bit of culture. He's always been a good figure in the group. Obviously has that infamous podcast with Fish, Gibber Fish. Got to had a few mixed reviews during its time. But he's a good guy, Gibbo, and he worked his ass off to get to AFL level, and he had 5 opportunities to get picked up and he didn't. And then obviously finally we picked him up before the 2019 season. And just for me, I think it's a positive, because if guys like that are getting delisted, just shows that our list is progressing, and certain players in that kind of mid-forward range are improving, like the stocks. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, spot on with that. I spoke to a mate last night, close mate of mine, Barney, and he was just saying how that's a really good sign to see how Michael Gibbons is actually getting delisted, and a guy like that, because everyone was like, oh, stiff on Michael Gibbons. But I'm like, well, too many players the same sort of role. And it's, I mean, it might be quite harsh, but he was a good player in a shit side, and he simply couldn't keep his spot in a good side with a progressing side. So, I mean, very, very stiff on Michael Gibbons. I reckon he was actually half decent with the chances that he's got. I mean, as you said, he has a crack, which is what the Carlton players should do. But, very stiff on Michael Gibbons. So, obviously, we'll move on from that, and we'll get into the trades that has happened over the past week. Obviously, we have been very, very active. So we'll start off with the players that we've given away. So obviously, SBS to West Coast, and we received pick 52. What was your thoughts on that, Daff?
Yeah, well, there's been a lot of talk about what we got in return for that deal. You can see it both ways. I think you can see it as, we weren't going to offer him a contract. It's better than, letting him walk for nothing. So, but then again, he's a pick 6 player, and we know, he can really light it up on his day. So I think it's probably a win-win for both teams. The way we're going to play is get it move on from last year, and the season past, and Vossi having a new philosophy, and Samo might not be a part of that plan, and he might be a part of the West Coast plan. So hopefully it's a win-win for both teams. But what are you thinking about it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously pick 52 isn't that's a third rounder? Is it a third or fourth? Yeah, it's a third.
Third, I think.
Yeah, I mean, a pretty late third, but obviously, it's an interesting one, just because, as you said, he's a former pick 6. A lot of players we mentioned it last week, how we were saying, oh, well, he wasn't really given the opportunity. I mean, we didn't mention it, but how other people were mentioning how he wasn't given the opportunity in the midfield where his primary role is. But as we said, if you're going to be a good player, if you are a good player, you can play in any position. And obviously he was, we said that the half-back flank is probably one of the easiest roles in the team. And he really couldn't keep his spot in the team. So obviously SBS, great player, I'm one of his biggest fans. So I really do hope that he can light it up for West Coast, but not too much, because we don't want him to be as good as he was at Carlton. But obviously all the best to SBS, and we wish you all the very best from the Baggers Chat boys. So obviously we'll move on to the players that we've brought into the club. So obviously we'll start off with the free agents. George Hewett from the Sydney Swans. What were your thoughts on that, Daff?
Yeah, massive get. I think it's just a position we needed to fill. Just that defensive midfielder that we lack. We have a few front runners in our team, so guy can run both ways, and he's still good with the footy. He's not just a trotter and he just tackles all day. He does a bit of everything. So I see no real risk picking him up, really.
Yeah, like he's 25, so there's, as you said, there's no real risk, and it's kind of a win-win, because we didn't have to give up much. It's a 4-year deal, I believe, for $450 a year. I believe. So, that's pretty good for George Hewett, and I don't think Yeah, so obviously that's and like as you said, last week, how that must show how bad the salary cap is at Sydney for not
Yeah.
for a player of his quality,
Mm.
for him not even to be offered a 450-year contract. It's pretty
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting on Sydney.
I think with that point, I think he was actually on fair bid at Sydney. I think he was on 650 plus. So that's more of a bonus for us.
Yeah.
So he's not moving necessarily for the money. He's just moving, I guess, he's forced out with a squeeze, but he's not asking for much. He just wants to, be a part of a good culture, and hopefully that culture at Carlton's good for him.
Yeah, as you are, as the sunshine starts to beam in, that.
Sorry about that, viewers.
But because I think also what I'm kind of liking to see, and we spoke about it on the chat, how the interviews with the players with Voss, and how already we are getting I reckon we've gotten already in the past 2 or 3 weeks with Vossi taking over, we've gotten more from the club than what we did all year this year. So it's so good to see. It's so good to see that.
It just makes it, it makes us excited about the club.
Yeah.
It's a good PR. It's good PR for the club. As members, you want to know your players as much as possible as people, and your coaches as people. And, Vossi's, talks that they've been doing and posting, they're not necessarily just about footy. They're talking about life and, all stuff around that. So, no, it's great. I love it. I'm just, if you feel like you're actually in the conversation with them, you know what I mean? You feel like on a personal level, you actually know them. So it's just good.
Yeah. So obviously we'll move on from George Hewett, and obviously very excited to see what he can actually do at the club, and obviously with the team going ahead with this new look. But now we'll move on to Lewis Young from the Western Bulldogs. We obviously traded him for pick 52, which was involved with the SBS deal. So I think that's a great get.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's one that kind of was under the radar for the last few months. There was a bit of talk about him and us being quite, connected in it with a trade in the future, but at least we got that deal done. Yeah. He's good stock. I did hear today that might have been Voss or someone else talking about Oscar McDonald. I reckon he'll be at the club next year. Yeah. They're hoping he gets his body right. So if you have a few, key backs, and also when you verse, tall teams like a Port Adelaide, you can play all of them. You can play 3 of them. You got Young, Weeders, and Jones. Like, geez, not bad really. And then you got your Sards and your Williams and whoever else. So he's an intercept mark. He's going to be working under Jonesy and Weeders. He'll get even better. His ceiling's very high. So it's a great pickup.
So what's your thoughts on his position on the club, on the field? Do you think that he will? Because he played a little bit of I feel like he played a little bit of fault. Like he played everywhere on there.
Yeah. I think that was the problem. I think he aims to be more of a defender. He was picked as a defender, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. I think he towed us in his first game. I think his debut, he took a hanger in front of me.
That's right.
I was just like, who the hell's this kid? He's killing us. But I think he'd be a defender. Obviously, if there's injuries, he might, pinch it in the ruck. But I don't think Voss would, be one of those coaches that would try and fill spots with guys who don't play there regularly. So I'd say key back. Yeah. Yourself?
Yeah, I think a key back. Obviously, to try and just learn his craft again, I guess, because I feel like the doggies may have messed him around a bit, which is a bit. I mean, it's good for them just because it just shows how many the key back stocks they actually have. And I'm very glad to have him at the club. But my question to you is, do you think that he will be in our best 22?
Yeah, it's interesting because sometimes it's hard to tell from now. If he has a good training block from whenever preseason starts to the preseason matches, the NAB Cups or whatever they call them nowadays. But if he finds a good role where we have both Jones and Wiedering, I think he could definitely be best 22. Yeah. But obviously that's if Marchbank's fit, does he play over him? It's a roller coaster. So you can't really guess right now. But he'd be top 20. He'd be top 26 definitely.
Yeah. I mean, you'd hope so. But as you said, just with the Marchbank, it's going to be tough because with Lewis Young coming in, what does that mean for Marchbank? is maybe the club just saying, oh, well, if you can't get his body right for 2022, where does that leave him? Because I think he's contracted, isn't he? So he's contracted beyond 22.
Yeah. I reckon it's a bit of a safety. It's a bit of a safety in case Marchbank just doesn't pull up good enough.
Yeah.
You don't want to be left with, if a Jones retires in 3-4 years, you don't want to be left with, a young 19-year-old playing fullback, you know what I mean, or bring in some dud.
Yeah.
You want someone who's, been a part of the system for long enough, like the Carlton system for long enough, the one that Mossie's building now. And once he gets into the team, he might play not too many games, but once he's in, he doesn't look like he's lost out there. He looks like he's, ready to play and the whole system's working well around him.
Yeah. So obviously we're very stoked to have Lewis Young at the club. I think he's going to be a great player. And I reckon he will be back in the number 33 jersey that he wore the first time because I think he wore it the first year, number 33 at the Doggies. But I reckon now Sam Ramsey's gone.
Long sleeves as well.
So. Long sleeve. How good's that going to be? Because who was number 33? I think Ryan Houlihan was number 33.
Yeah, Houlihan. Hoops, mate.
Hoops. All right. So also we'll move on, but very, very stoked to have Lewis Young at the club. So now we'll talk about the big name, the big fish that we got into the club. Finally, it was the player that we had to try and get into the club. He was worth a pick 6. We gave up more than we were expecting, but we are, of course, talking about Adam Cerra. What are your thoughts on that, Duff?
Oh, very, very happy when the news came through. Obviously, it was a bit of a domino effect yesterday. Just that deal got done, and Samo got done, and it all. We just got our players in about half an hour or so. So it was good we got the deal done. It was the first trade period where I wasn't too worried. Last year the Saad deal kind of got dragged on because of stupid Dodero from Essendon who asked for Walsh and Mackay and Wiedering in a deal for fucking Saad. So it was good. I respect the Dockers. They spoke well and they weren't so salty about him leaving. They just wanted to get the best deal they could, and they didn't hold on forever. Respect for both the player and our club. So it was just a great deal. He's going to be massive for us. He's just going to take that liability off, not liability, but just the whole, Cripps won't have to carry. Cripps won't have to carry anymore. Walsh won't have to carry so much. They're all going to have their little, and you got your Paddy Dowes, you got your Kennedys who hopefully continue their form from last year. And geez, you got George Hewett. It really should work out. It really, really should work out. What are your thoughts on the Cerra deal?
Yeah. I mean, obviously stoked to have him at the club. I'm actually a really big fan of his. I don't watch many Fremantle games, but when I do, I definitely keep an eye on him, Sarong, Brayshaw. I reckon they had one of the best midfielders young midfielders in the comp, but obviously now we have poached Adam Cerra. But I mean, I think that's a great get for us. Pick 6, a pick 6 in future third. Yeah, I mean, as we said, we just had to
well, when you look at it, you go, how many third round picks are turning into stars?
Yeah.
So I know it's a risk because in 5 years, Freo pick some gun or something. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to get the deal done, we need it now. Like, if we were holding on to just going, we're giving you 6 and nothing else for a week.
Yeah,
that'll just you don't want to have that situation where he's walking to the preseason draft.
Yeah,
because that would be the most nerve-wracking time ever. So it was good we got the deal done. He's at the club, silky mid, feeding it to Harry, Premiership Cups.
Hold it up. But it's just because I reckon he was one of my favourite players in that draft, especially it was Dow. And I think it was who was number 1 pick in that draft? Rayner, wasn't it?
Rayner, I believe, yes.
Yeah, so that was a pretty good draft. I mean, Rayner obviously has been unfortunate with his injury this year, but I reckon Cerra, great get. And as you said, it's going to be interesting what they actually do with the midfield, because you have the Paddy Dowes and Matthew Kennedys, they all kind of have that same sort of just attributes and kind of just the roles that they actually bring to the club. And it's how they're going to be played on the field, whether Matthew Kennedy maybe might play that forward role as he kind of came.
It's tough. Yeah, it's because I reckon a good idea for the midfield. I reckon the starting midfield round 1 will be, this is the lock, it'll be TDK, Cerra, Walsh and Cripps. So it'll be the midfield. But I think when they, during a game, they might be rotating Walsh and Cerra. They might be both rotating. So Cerra might be playing on the wing for a rest, and then obviously switch with Walsh. They're both very good at that.
Yeah.
They're both very good at being able to switch it to the outside, back inside, and obviously know their roles. So, it'll be exciting to watch. I'm telling you, the Blue Banger Army. I'm telling you, they're going to be up and about round one like usual.
I mean,
it just has to happen. It just has to happen next year. It just has to happen. You got to tick off the hoodoo, get rid of the fucking Richmond hoodoo, knock them off, finish off their dynasty, put them in the grave.
Yes.
Finish it off.
I would do anything to say that, Duff. I'm not even kidding. I would do anything just to see. By like about 10 minutes into the fourth quarter, we're up by 45. Richard supporters walking out, and we're like, nah. Oh, mate, I fucking would do anything to see that happen. I'm not even kidding. Even if, like, I reckon I would rather do it to Richmond than Collingwood. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to hate Richmond so much more than Collingwood, and I would do anything to just see them drop. Like, I reckon they could be one of the teams that could really drop. But obviously, we don't want to write off Richmond. We know how good the club they are. But so back to Cerra and obviously the midfield. Just it's kind of going to be interesting just because where that leaves a guy like Will Setterfield. Because you look at a guy like Will Setterfield, and in 2020, he actually seemed like he was starting to gain some momentum, and he went into preseason. We were excited to see him play. We were expecting to see him really rise in 2021, and he just really didn't. And it's unfortunate on him, but I mean, like as we said, it's going to be very interesting what they do with that midfield, and obviously with the positions and stuff. But it's going to be really good signs. It's really good signs for the club.
Yeah, it's interesting, Setterfield. I was actually thinking about it the other day. I'm just like, what are we going to do with him? Like, he's probably got one more year in his contract, I'd imagine. Yeah. Probably 1 year, I'd imagine. But, geez, will he be getting a game? Like, I think it'll be a battle between him, Dow. I think Paddy Dow'd get a game most weeks. Maybe a Kennedy, maybe him and Kennedy, rotating. But he can't really fit on the wing, Setterfield. Like, he just wasn't good enough on the wing.
Yeah, and even Ed Curno's in that mix now. Like, he's starting to age, but I reckon he will still get a game. Like, I reckon he will still get a game. But
it's just depending on how he play. Like, if Setterfield's got defensive strengths that Voss likes and the way we defend, team defense or whatever, and he helps that in that certain area of the ground, then he'll pick him. Yeah. I think people need to move away from what they do with the ball sometimes. Yeah. Like, you got to have roles where you're sacrificing your game to win the game for your football club. Yeah. Like, you see that with the best teams, people running all day and they're barely getting the ball. Yeah. Like, they're just running in spots, filling up spots, blocking up spots, zoning, all that type of stuff. If you got players buying into whatever Vossi is bloody telling them, it'll work out. Because this year, like, mind you, we played not even any defensive. No. Like, we could not defend the ball with it when the other team had it. You knew they were kicking a goal. That's not on. Like, if we fix that part of our game, I'm telling you, our offense is fine. Our offense is fine. Yeah. We'll score every week. We just got to be able to stop teams. But that feels interesting.
Yeah, but like as you said, like even like the offense, it's just got to be. I think we're actually forgetting. We fucking have Charlie. Like, we gave Charlie Curnow 4 games in the last 4 or 5. I don't even know how many games he actually played, but I think he played at least 4. Yeah, he's got 4 games into Charlie Curnow. Like, he's gonna go into preseason. And I seriously reckon he's probably my favourite player at the club. Charlie Curnow, I reckon everyone's saying, he's overrated. He's only a 1-year wonder or whatever. People say, mate, it's like he's still so young. And we're seeing what Harry Mackay has done this year, 2021, with winning the Coleman. God, it's going to be very exciting to see what we do with Charlie Curnow next year. Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, it's very, very exciting times for the club. Obviously, we brought in 3 very key ins. Obviously, SBS obviously has not done enough to keep his spot at the club, and obviously we wish him all the best West Coast. But once again, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you today, Daff. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's been great, mate. It's been great. A lot of stuff to cover. I'm sure we'll do some type of recap. Talking about off season and all that type of stuff and what we need to improve. So we'll do a recap next week of the trade talk. I guess there wouldn't be too many moves next week. There probably might be a few pick swaps. Carlton obviously trying to get into the first round of this year's draft, so plenty to play out on that end. But yeah, it's been great, Pato.
And as always, go the I don't know my scarf, but go the Mighty Blues.